Hey guys, this is Equinox. This is going to be my 9.1 Brewmaster video. This is going to be kind of a short video. I'm going to go over just all the new stuff, any of the Covenant changes, anything that changes viability wise. But yeah, let's get into it. So there's 4 new legendaries. Everyone gets 4 new legendaries. The Brewmaster ones are Call to Arms, Feline Harmony, Sinner's Teaching is Bountiful Brew, Call to Arms. Whenever you weapons, it summons Nizao for 12 seconds. Feline Harmony doubles the proc chance when you're in Feline Stomp and marks anyone hit, ally or foe, and increases damage or healing taken. Bountiful Brew just drops Bone Dust Brew, targets location sometimes. And Sinner's Teaching is summons a pet for 24 seconds and reduces the cooldown on crits. The only 2 good ones here are Call to Arms and Feline Harmony. These 2 will actually be very strong for your Covenants, but the other 2 ones not so much. I'd say if you're playing Knife A, you are most likely going to run this over Keg Smash, and for Kyrian, you're either going to run this or Storm Stouts. There's pretty much no in between. The other big new feature is Domination sockets. So there's 5 slots that you can get Domination sockets in: helm, shoulders, chest, hands, and feet. Those are the only slots you can get Domination sockets in, and you will put these shards in. What these shards do is just give you like proc or a stat increase like speed, leech. They do not stack. You cannot stack them. Like, you can't just do like 5 absorb shields for like a bunch of absorbs. You can't do that. That doesn't work. But you can match 3 of them, and it'll give you a set bonus in raid or in the mod. It does not work in M+. Right now, there's 4 or 5 really good ones for Brewmaster. It is the Portentous Shard of Dies, which is just 1.5% increased damage. It's pretty high up. It's pretty much 100% uptime. You can't really drop it. Portentous Shard of Core, your damage decreases 4.5% for 20 seconds after attacking an enemy you have not yet damaged. This one has a really high uptime. Just going to show you like an example of the key I did miss. 48% uptime, pretty strong. And then there's Portentous Shard of Beck. Your damage decreased by 3% when you have 50% or more HP in your target. Again, free damage basically. The other good ones are Leech. It's free Leech. This is like 40 something at max rank. And the Absorb Shield, once they fix it, will be strong. Right now, when the Absorb is up, your Celestial Brew or any other Absorb you do does not work at all. So it's pretty bad right now. But when it gets fixed, it'll work pretty well. The way you upgrade these is Stygian Embers, and then there's a mob in Korthia that you talk to, and you can just upgrade them. It's pretty simple. Let's jump into raid gear. This is a pretty important one. So I'm just going to go over your BIS only raid gear. I'm not going to go over a full BIS list because that's kind of subjective and depends on what your leech rolls are. So I'm just going to go over the full raid BIS list. If you have any comments or think I'm wrong, feel free to post in the comments and we'll have a discussion. This is just my first take on it. So your best slot helm will be from Remnant Azul. It has haste verse. It's not great stats for Brewmaster, but it's decent, and the other raid helm is like pretty bad. So this will be your BIS helm. Your BIS neck will be from Remnant as well, or Terragru. So this is 207 crit, 50 verse, and then from Terragru it's Mastery Haste. And I'd probably say you want the Mastery Haste one because I think crit's really bad for Brewmaster, but I think it doesn't really make too much of a difference. But yeah, I think you definitely want the one from Terragru. Chest you want from Eye of the Jailer. It is haste verse again. Again, not ideal, I know, but it's a Domination socket. It's haste verse. The other one is from Sylvanas. It's crit mastery. If this was high mastery, low crit, I'd say this is better, but I think the verse is more valuable, personally. Let's move on to Cloak. Cloak is Guardians of the first one, is self-replicating tissue, gives verse haste. A lot of haste verse gear, but this is high verse, low haste this time. This will be your BIS. Bracers are from Freight Scribe. This is verse haste again. You can see kind of a pattern. It's a lot of verse haste. Gloves are from Paintsmith. Verse mastery, very, very good for Brewmaster. You always want verse mastery. Belt will either be legendary, Storm Stout's Keg, or it will be from Sylvanas, which is haste verse again. Your best in slot legs will either be Call to Arms on the leg slot, or these, which is 109 crit, 56 verse, very strong legs. Boots will be from Soul Render, which are Mastery Verse. Again, really good stats for Brewmaster. Domination socket, pretty self-explanatory there. Your rings will be from Fate Scribe. This will be Verse Mastery, really good for Brewmaster. Your second ring will be from the 9, which is Haste Mastery. It's the only other good ring. It's not really that good for Brewmaster, but it's decent. You'll probably want a Dungeon Ring, almost certainly. Trinkets, I actually think the raid trinkets are pretty good. Shard of Anhalid's Aegis. I'll give you an example of the healing breakdown of this. This is how much it does. It's very comparable to Blood Spattered Scale, and it's much easier to get higher eye level since it's on such an early boss in the raid. And it has a lower cooldown, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it has a lower cooldown. So yeah, I think this trinket is definitely better than Blood Spattered. Your second trinket will be from Guardians of the first one. And this is basically a proc version of the Shard. So, free passive mitigation. I'll do a video on the trinkets more in depth later. Now, the next one is raid weapons. This one's kind of a toss-up because you can do either the two-hander that gives you on-use 270 secondary stats for 30 seconds, 3-minute cooldown. Long cooldown, but as it's effectively a 230 cooldown. Or you can get this, which is just free bleed damage on any target that are slowed, and Keg Smash is a permanent slow, so this will always be up. Pretty useless on bosses, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, this will just be mostly good on trash. I'm pretty sure you can use either of these and you'll be happy. The other two weapons are bad. It's Haste Mastery, Haste Crit, and Haste Mastery again. So no verse at all. Literally 0 verse from weapons in the raid. Ideally, I think you'll want this, or you'll want this and a Poxstorm. Because Poxstorm will definitely do more damage than this on AoE. Almost certainly. Like, what's Poxstorm's damage? 395 over 6 versus 257 over 6. And this has a really high chance of price. Like, this procs so much. Let's move on to conduits. The new conduit that came out is Adaptive Armor Fragment. When you're healed by another player, increase your agility by 3.2% for 15 seconds. It occurs once every 30 seconds, so this effectively has a 15-second internal cooldown. You will use this for your third potency if you are using Pelagos, because Pelagos you always get 3 potencies no matter what. If you run Forge Light, which you almost certainly will be doing, you will be running Hammer of Genesis. If the Adaptive Fragment ends up being more defensive than the extra abilities you get with Hammer, then you'll probably run triple potency, which is completely fine. I think either one will be very viable. And the other biggest topic is Covenants. Right now the choice is between Kyrian, Night Fae, and Necro. Night Fae definitely got a lot better with the new Fae line Stomp one, but I would say Kyrian is still looking to be best in slot with the new Brawn traits. Show you. So Brawn got a new trait. It's called Effusive Anima Accelerator, and this basically just does 12k arcane damage split between everyone. It can crit, and then it reduces the CD by 8 seconds up to 40 seconds. So this puts your Weapons of Order and M+ at a 120 cooldown almost always. That paired with Call to Arms or even Storm Stouts is super powerful. You have way more cooldowns per pack, and I think they'll be strong. And you can either run Soul Glow Spectrometer, which is basically a permanent 5% damage taken debuff on your targets, or a healing debuff on yourself, or you can go Reactive Retrofitting, which is an 8% max HP shield for magic or fizz damage, and either one can proc once every 30 seconds, so you can have both proc. So yeah, it's basically just 16% of your max HP and damage types. This one's really good. I would recommend this one. Night Fae, you'll go Naya, almost certainly, and you'll get a lot of mastery. You'll get so many Phalanx Stomps. You'll have so much mastery. And the conduits, you'll be running Walk with the Ox. Walk with the Ox and Adaptive Armor Fragment. And Burrs. So you'll run Walk with the Ox, Adaptive Armor Fragment, and Burrs. And then Covenant for Necro, I think Emini's really good. The new Pox does a lot of damage. It's you get 10 pustules when you fleshcraft, and those proc anytime you take damage. So I think that one's going to be pretty good for Brewmaster as well. I'd say between the three, it's whatever your group needs the most. I'd say you're most likely to run Kyrian. It is the strongest. It does the most damage. It has a lot of defensive value, and you always have Weapons of Order up now, which is really, really nice. But yeah, that's pretty much it for Covenants. That'll take a longer video. I'll do like a little showcase of Night Fae once they fix it. I'll do a showcase of Necro, and I'll do a showcase of Kyrian. So I'll do that later. Now let's move on to M+ specifics. This is this is my specialty. Let's start off with how Brewmaster's viability. So right now, Brewmaster is looking to be second or third best tank, completely depending on how good Prot Warrior is. They deal with the new M+ affix a lot better. So there's the guy that does the healing DR. You can pretty much game this with Elusive Brawler. Every single time. You'll never take a Decapitate, and you don't really care about the healing debuff as a Brewmaster because you have Absorb Shields. So, and they deal with Sagadon really well, which is the Tank Buster one. Just like in Season 4 Awakened, Brewmaster just deals with it pretty well. So I'd say overall, Brewmaster's looking like the second or third best tank, completely depending on how good Prot Warrior is. I don't think Vengeance DH is going to be that viable, but it might be. We'll see. It just depends how really good Triple Caster is. But Brewmaster is definitely looking strong. Not as good as Bear, but viable for sure. So the new affix, which I just went over a little bit, Brewmaster is really well against. So there's the Fire debuff guy, which is just an aura, and it doesn't really affect you since you have so much Absorb and self-healing. So it doesn't really matter too much for the Fire guy. The Frost guy doesn't do anything to you at all. The healing debuff guy, which also does a Decapitate and a bleed on someone else. The Decapitate, you can dodge 100% of them, and you'll have no trouble with that guy at all. The Sagadon is just a tank buster, and you always have like Celestial Brew up. You always have Zen Med. You always have a trinket. You always have something to deal with it. So it's looking like a really, really strong tank for the new affix specifically. Comp-wise, Brewmaster looks to benefit a little bit from the new meta, Ellie Shaman coming into meta is pretty good for Brewmaster because they get benefit from the Fizz damage debuff because of Earthquake. Rogues are good at, obviously, like rogues are always good. But yeah, rogues are looking meta again. The Holy Pally is looking meta, and Holy Pally is completely fine with Brewmaster with the new raid trinkets. You're pretty tanky by yourself, so you don't really need too much healer attention. For your third DPS slot, you're looking at either a Boomkin, Havoc DH, or Frost/Fire/Arcane Mage. Arcane's actually pretty decent. But yeah, you're pretty much looking for that comp. You want a Rogue and Ellie Shaman almost 100% because they benefit from your debuff like super, super well. And you want a supporting caster as your third. I would say Mage is probably the best one. It's the most consistent and offers the most utility. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Brewmaster just looking like a solid overall tank next patch for M+. They're not going to be as strong as Bear, like I said, but they will definitely be viable. You can definitely push all the content you want on it. I will do a more in-depth video on what Brewmaster is going to be looking like once 9.1 is about to launch and they finalize all the testing. I will be putting up some videos to compare the Covenants, and yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video and learned a little bit of something. Have a good one.